Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to my blog. I know it has been a hot minute since I recorded a vlog, so here we are today. We'll be diving into a topic that is really near and dear to me and really relevant in my life, as well as in the life of so many others. A topic that is talked about but not often owned up to in the social circles that I run in. Now, before I jump right into the topic of today's vlog, I'm just going to give you some context about myself. If you don't know me or haven't had the chance to peruse the various pages of my blog, then you might not be aware of my various ambitions and goals in life, my academic background, or my current endeavors. So let's start there. First, I'll just say this. I unintentionally tend to run in social circles with really ambitious peers. And I know how that sounds. I think it sounds very pretentious. So let me explain a bit. Let me backtrack. So, for one, I am pre med. I think being pre med sometimes is how they say it's like being vegan. Everyone knows. If you're vegan, everyone knows you're vegan. If you're pre med, everyone knows you're pre med. But I think it's very relevant and pertinent to today's topic that I mention this. And of course, one of my life goals is attending medical school. Two, I am also hoping to attend graduate school. And three, I've had the privilege of receiving a Fulbright scholarship, which has placed me in my current position as an English Fulbright teaching assistant here in Madrid. Now, because of these lofty, ambitious goals that I've had in the past and that I currently have, I'm constantly surrounded by, again, very ambitious peers. And what this means is that all of us are constantly striving to obtain things in life that don't come easily by any means. With all that in mind, I wanted today's vlog to be about the infamous imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is defined by the internal experience of feeling subpar to how others perceive you. It may also be accompanied by the worry that those very same people who hold you in high regard will eventually find out that you are not, in fact, who they think you are, and that you are, in fact, a fraud. For instance, this might look like me receiving a Fulbright scholarship, but believing that I'm not good enough to be a Fulbright scholar, yet still receiving the scholarship, and worrying that my peers are going to show me up and eventually find out that I'm not some divine being with some crazy high IQ. A really unrealistic fear, but definitely valid. This is a very competitive scholarship, and I think it's felt by many. In addition to this sort of competition-induced imposter syndrome, I'm also going to talk about the general feeling of being an imposter, or in other words, a foreigner. Now, again, I know what you're thinking. Oh my goodness, we get it. You live in Spain. You've only said it in every single blog and vlog post you've made. And yes, you're right. However, the sense of foreignness, of being an imposter, extends to more than just my being a tall, light-haired, blue-eyed, English-speaking woman in Spain. So I'm going to talk about this general sense of feeling like an imposter before moving more specifically into imposter syndrome. So first off, if you have read a bit about me or know me personally, you'll notice that I tend to move a lot. I'm almost sort of a nomad. This was definitely something I felt prepared for leading up to 2020, moving and acclimating to a new environment. I was a born and raised Californian who moved to Alaska at the age of 17 to attend university. So how could I not be experienced with acclimating to a new environment, culture, and way of life? Now, I know, again, that you're probably thinking, oh, well, obviously Spain is going to be very different than a move from California to Alaska. But really, after I thought about it, I realized that the imposter feeling that comes with a change of scenery really began when I moved to Canada. Me moving to Spain really just altered this sensation and maybe heightened my anxiety a little bit regarding it. That being said, let's talk about my move to Canada, which just so happened to occur, you guessed it, in the middle of a pandemic. So before moving, my life kind of looked like this. Me getting out of a crappy living situation. Me bumming it off of a friend for a month. Thanks, Cheyenne, if you're watching. Me panicking about being able to keep my job if I were to move out of the country. Me being able to organize everything for my move in a month while working full time and doing training for said job, while also planning flights for my mom to Whitehorse to pick her up on the way to share the driving for the 56-hour road trip across Canada, and somehow surviving. After all plans were squared away, I packed everything into my small Hyundai and set off with my life in my vehicle in the middle of September to drive across Canada to Ontario. I left early in the morning, grabbing some coffee along the way, and driving straight through to Whitehorse. It was about a 13-hour drive. Or so I thought. This is where the imposter feeling starts to come in. Promise. Hang on with me for a second. We're getting there. So I'm driving for around 8 hours when I finally make it to the Canadian border. All I can think is, oh my goodness, I'm making great time. Maybe I will even get to Whitehorse before my mom, check into the hotel, take a shower, maybe even a nap before picking her up. However, I get to the border and there's a long line. I'm sitting there for like an hour and a half at least and running relatively low on gas at this point. So I'm sitting there wondering, should I keep my car running, keep the heat on, or should I try to conserve gas and shut off the engine entirely? I finally get up to the patrol station and I explain to them very kindly, I'm moving from Alaska, moving to Thunder Bay, Ontario, yada yada, right? I show them my Canadian passport, and then I tell them that I'm going to pick up my mom in Whitehorse before driving across the country to start my new life. First mistake. The officer looks at me and just says, "You can't do that, that's illegal." And then he proceeded to tell me that he needed to look at my passport further before shutting his office window again. Then another officer comes out and began to once again tell me that what I was planning was illegal and that I should not do that. And all I could do was just sit there and try to assuage their worries and tell them that I was not going to do that. Of course, I wasn't going to. It was interesting that they didn't seem to believe me in the slightest. Like, trust me, I do not want to be thrown in jail or fined up to $1 million in fines. I'm supposed to go to Spain in a few months. Can't do that from jail. So the officer hands me my passport back and tells me that I need to come in and fill out some customs paperwork. So I pull over to the other side of the building and I park and I fill out the necessary paperwork. From that first day entering Canada, I became soberingly aware of the fact that I was not a born and raised Canadian. And I knew that, but from that day forward, I was just so much more aware of it. My whole trip across Canada, all 56 hours, I could feel the stares from people in the cars passing me by. All of them looking at my Alaska plates and thinking, what is she doing over here? Once I got to my new home in Ontario, the fun did not stop there. And before I continue, let me just say, I get it. I get that we are in the middle of a pandemic. I get that everyone is concerned that others are not abiding by guidelines. I get that we are all also inclined to do whatever is in our best interest instead of what may be best for the majority. And because of this, that people are more vigilant for rule breakers. However, with all of what is going on, we need to remember that everyone is living in a different situation. And rather than accusing people right off the bat of rule breaking or what have you, we should practice empathy and think of all the possibilities before reverting to accusations. So again, as I was saying, stepping off my soapbox, I arrived in my new home and did my due diligence in isolating for 14 days. However, I could still feel the eyes tracking me as I drove around in my small little red car with Alaska plates. Yet the attention didn't bother me until it became more than just stares. Now, I know you're probably going to watch this, so please forgive me, but I'm going to talk about a situation that I got into with my mom. Sorry, Mom, but so my mom and I had gone to the store, taking my car for whatever reason rather than hers that day. We parked and went inside, but not before being approached by some random woman at the hand sanitizer station who happened to ask if we were from another country. I didn't even think twice and said no, in a confused, almost questioning manner. Not a single thought crossed my mind as to why she might be asking this, but of course she went on to ask why I had Alaska license plates, and then to ask if we had done the necessary isolating. Needless to say, her accusatory tone led my mom into a rage and led me to basically dissociate from my body while they hurled threats of involving the police at one another. I had never felt more like a foreigner than in that moment. Despite being legally allowed to live in and benefit from the same benefits as any other Canadian, as a Canadian citizen myself. It took me a solid week to shake off that traumatizing experience of being singled out and put on display at the local Walmart. And it took the town about a month before another assault would be thrown my way, this time via Facebook. On a local page, citizens were complaining about COVID restrictions, and lo and behold, guess what came up? It's okay, I'll give you a second. That's right, my poor little car with Alaska plates. Someone began to throw around the fact that I had been driving around with my Alaska plates as some sort of threat to their safety. Like, I get it. But also, I actually have every right to be here, K-Vinks. So once again, I felt unwelcome, an imposter of sorts. It's surprising to me that I could feel so foreign where I'm not a foreigner, and so welcome where I in fact do not belong, which is Spain. So as someone who constantly feels like an imposter with regards to their ambitions, this was definitely one of my worst nightmares coming to life. To be called out and made to feel unwelcome in terms of where you live, that's a whole other beast. However, it made me realize what I'm going to talk about now, and we'll use this as a symbolism of sorts. This experience, however, whatever you want to call it, however humbling, belittling it may have been, it made me realize that I am right where I'm supposed to be. Just like my being in Canada as a seemingly foreign individual, while actually being legally allowed to live and breathe on Canadian soil, I am entitled to all of my accomplishments and ambitions. Just as in this situation where my fellow Canadians thought me to be an imposter, my peers in the Fulbright program, my colleagues at work, and future acquaintances may all consider me to have not merited my accomplishments. However, again, just as those Ontario citizens in this situation, they do not have the full story. They did not know that I am in fact a Canadian citizen, just as they may not know that I graduated with 2 degrees and honors. They did not know that I recently moved and was changing my license over, just as they may not know that I worked 2 to 3 jobs while simultaneously taking classes full time, just as they did not know how I came to be in that small town coming all the way from Alaska. They may not, or rather, most likely will not know my life story. I say all of this not to brag about my accomplishments, but to paint a clear picture of the fact that we are so much more complex as individuals than we are made out to be. With all that being said, that does end my vlog for today. But I hope that each and every one of you who takes the time to watch takes at least one thing away from this video. And I hope that it's that you deserve every accomplishment you achieve. So roll with it. You're most likely right where you're supposed to be at this point in time. Don't let others dull your shine. Thanks for watching. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so on the homepage of my blog. I am going to try to edit my blog a little bit to put some more subscription boxes throughout the website so it makes it easier. But if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me as well on the contact page. Thanks again.